Welcome to the Tactical Dent Tech Podcast. You are now part of a small underground movement of dent technicians from all over the world. We are on a mission to change our industry with innovation, intelligence, and skill. But because we don't rely on an insurance company to steer customers our way, we need to do things different. We need to do things smarter. We do that through a network of technicians that we call the Tactical Tech Movement. Now let's get this revolution started.
Hey, what's up, everybody? John Hiley here with Angela Hiley and the Tactical Dent Tech Podcast. Coming to you again with, actually, we are not late because technically it's Thursday night. And technically, I've actually looked at the ratings and compared them with other launch hours, of course. The marketer in me is always trying to find, the funny thing is, like, it's like iTunes has an algorithm. Like, sometimes they'll serve your podcast as a, whatever, the fucking pops up on your phone, you know what I mean, as a reminder. Other times they won't, so I don't know why it is, but whenever we launch them and release them on Thursday evening, they tend to just do better. You know, they excel. They actually double or triple our normal listeners, which is like, instead of 1 million, we got 3 million people listening to the podcast.
John.
Nah, we're not that. We're not that important. But, and like I said, I'd rather, and I truly do believe that anytime I talk to a Tactical Dent Tech listener, what I get from that right off the rip is that y'all are fucking smart, man. You guys are listening to strategies. You guys are trying to step up your game. You guys aren't just filling your minds with, mindless babble.
A bunch of bullshit.
And
a bunch of bullshit.
Because there's a lot of bullshit out there.
There's a lot of bullshit out there.
So that being said, welcome, Tactical Dent Tech Podcast listeners.
Yep. I'm going to be getting me a set of Longhorns, real ones. We will be displaying them in the house.
And she just figured this out literally 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, because I got a photo of a Longhorn. And he's in my front room where I like to drink my coffee in the morning. And before I picked out this photo of a tree. I mean, it was a cute tree. It was a photo of a painted tree. But it didn't do anything for me. It didn't, when I looked at it, I was just like it didn't inspire me. And this photo of this Longhorn, he's just like chilling there. He's in his moment. He's in his own world. He's just flowing and he's just doing him. And that's what I like. It'll be nice sitting in the front room and looking at my buddy right there.
Yeah, the other picture we had up there was fucking stupid. I can't even, it was so stupid I can't even remember what it was.
It was just a picture of a painted
but
big tree.
But it looked like a fucking third grader painted it or something. It was like, like a finger painting. That might have been a fucking finger painting we had hung up there. From somebody else's kid, and it wasn't even our kid's finger painting.
I don't know. It came from Pier 1. We only paid like $20 for that photo.
I think we really just got it because it was such a strikingly good deal for being at Pier 1. And you know what? The funniest thing I think when I think of Pier 1, I always tell her that it used to be Pier 1 Imports. But if you notice, they dropped off the import name. Because for the longest time, we would walk into Pier 1 and everything I turned up fucking was from China.
Well, at one time they did import stuff from other countries.
But as they were still named Pier 1 Imports, 90% of the store was, I'm like, they should call this place China Imports, which is right next to the Dollar Tree.
The sad thing is I like that store. I like to go in there, but I just feel like a lot of their stuff isn't the way that it used to be. I mean, a lot of their furniture that they sell in there, like their tables and chairs and stuff like that, that stuff is still nice.
And none of that shit's worth full price.
No. Well, that's why they're always running good sales. But all the other shit that they sell in there, it's like...
That's like one of the places you don't buy anything unless it's on sale.
That's true. And when I went there and bought a couple pillows and a throw, it was on sale.
Well, I mean, that's all like if y'all got Hobby Lobby. And believe it or not, that's actually a pretty fucking cool store. You know, they've got sections that are nothing but like dude shit, like car shit. My favorite stuff, Western shit.
Yeah.
One of these days, I'm going to deck out a whole fucking room in nothing but Western shit.
You should do that one office.
I
there
want
at the shop.
lamps. I want 6 shooters. All that.
What about the one office? You could turn that into like a little Western.
No, I'm talking about here at home.
Not here. We don't have a room.
Just give me like a restroom or something.
A restroom?
Yeah.
We don't really have a restroom that...
We got
That
my
you
restroom.
That little one? That
Yeah.
half one? No.
I'm going to turn that into...
No.
Well, even get
That
rid of
one's
the
fine.
door and get some of them swinging stalls, like the saloon.
John, that's your
That way,
pooping
when
restroom.
people
No.
walk by,
No,
they
you
can
take a
see.
shit in there. No.
When people
That's
walk by, they can
disgusting.
see
No.
my pants down to my ankles.
No.
All right, so I totally take it back. You guys being smart for listening to this podcast. Maybe you guys like comedy.
John, you told me that you wanted to get some of them long beads and hang them up in the shop.
Oh, that would be bad.
No, it would not. We are not doing that.
Because I thought about it, like, imagine if I made customers walk through beads. And I'm talking about like them old school hippie beads,
No.
that you would hang up right in front of a walkway.
Yeah, that's
I just think
you
it would
do
be
when you're like
But
when you're
I would-
a young adult or like a kid.
But the way the lobby's set up, I could
No.
walk down the hallway, and if there's like a customer standing there, I'd be like, "Come on in,"
No.
and like make them walk through the beads just to see
No.
like how they react as they're walking through them.
It just reminds me of the 70s rock shop there.
Or I can always like pop out and just stick my hand like right in the middle, like your hand comes out first, slide the beads up to the right, and kind of step in, be like, "Hey, how you doing, sir?"
No, it reminds me of the 70s rock shop. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, but see, I totally like fucking with people in general, so I told her that I was gonna because currently at the shop, I'm waiting to get almost like a door system installed where I can hear when people open the front door. As of right now, I don't have that, but I was actually thinking about putting a little sign up there that said "Stick your finger in this hole." And just like drill a little hole into the wall, just to see if like people would come in and like they did it, and I'd be like, "Oh, you stuck your finger in the hole?"
That is weird.
I know, it's so weird.
Weird.
I like doing weird shit,
No.
but I could just laugh at him and then slap him on the shoulder.
Don't
Like,
you
I'll be
think
like,
it's weird?
"I can't believe I got you with the old finger in the hole thing."
Oh my god. I'm not even gonna say what when you talk about doing that, what that like. I mean,
Oh, you go straight to the bad shit. And you would think that I was the one with the dirty mind. I'm just thinking of a hole that you could laugh and be like, "You really stuck your finger in that thing, dude? Thought something was gonna happen?" And you immediately go to like a glory hole or some shit.
chop that thing off.
Oh, it's the pleasure zone. Pleasure zone.
Oh no, we went there
It's the
last
pleasure
week,
zone.
didn't we? Or the week
Hey, if
before.
you guys
something
heard
like
it,
that.
you know it.
Oh dear God.
I'm sure there's people that I actually think I got a bunch of additional views on that video.
No, you did not.
You dirty perverts out there. All of you dirty perverts. Want to go hear the Pleasure Zone song.
I guess.
Yeah. So technically, we don't even know what the fuck this podcast is about.
No. I am reading a new book. I did get done with I read Fuck Anxiety. That's a good book. That you can actually listen to that book. I think it's meant for you to listen to in an hour and a half. And then I listened to Fuck Depression, which I highly recommend if anyone deals with anxiety or depression to listen to that because it is amazing. But now I'm listening to a book called You Do You by Sarah Knight. And
I could go somewhere so bad with that. You do you. Oh, I could go somewhere so bad with that.
Yeah.
You see how the perverted brain works?
I don't know. The way you said it didn't sound perverted.
Because
or
I'm not
anything like
perverted.
that.
You're perverted. Come on, Pleasure Zone. Tell us what the
Really?
book's about.
No, so far I'm just in the very beginning of it, but she totally speaks my language. She's always using the word fuck in the story, and that is very relatable because in all honesty, have we ever talked about this? How you can say fuck can be used in so, like it can mean more than one thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what
it's
I'm
all
saying?
based on the tone that you use the
I
word.
know, right?
You know? I mean, you could easily like roll up to an old friend and be like, fuck!
I know.
Or you could be like, you know, somebody could make you mad and you'll be like, fuck!
Yeah.
Or
like
you could
something
smash your finger and you'd be
awesome.
like, fuck!
Yeah, or something awesome happens and you're like, this is so fucking awesome. Like, woohoo! And
You can add words to it like, fuck yeah!
yeah. Absolutely. This is so totally
Or
fucking
like,
awesome.
what the fuck?
Yeah. Bro, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, dude.
Dude.
That was so lame. So lame.
Yeah. Well, I'm totally like, I'm geeked out in a book myself, but believe it or not, guys, most of the time I do audio, but I could not find this book on audio, which I'm kind of glad that I didn't find it on audio because I find that it's probably the easiest book that I've ever read, and it's actually called The Borton Letters, and it's from a guy named Gary C. Halbert.
It looks like a workbook.
And yeah, it's well, basically the whole premise of the book. Well, number one, I'll give you guys a little bit of a backstory, and then I'll kind of dig into what the book is about and why it's kind of addictive to read. Gary Halbert is one of the best copywriters, was one of the best copywriters in the world, still renowned. He's since passed away, but renowned as one of the best copywriters. In fact, if you took the sales letters that he has written on written word copy and you accumulated the amount of sales that he's gotten with that copy, and that's not just writing for whatever he does, but like copywriting for big products, things like that, it's in the billions. Like, the dude, and the dude lived a crazy life. You know, the more that I'm reading the book, they talk a lot about how everybody has like a Gary Halbert story of when they hung out with him. He literally spent like half of his life drinking booze and, you know, doing all kinds of shit. And then the other half of his life was more on the healthy end of things. And, you know,
so was it like a transition? It was like at one point he was
right, and
then the other part of this.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, the interesting thing about it is that this book specifically, it's called The Borton Letters, and his son, or I'm sorry, not Borton, it's Boron, Boron. That's the name of his son, and he had a 11-month stead in a federal penitentiary, and he had written these letters to his son from the federal penitentiary. And he fully intended at the beginning of each letter that he had written to eventually publish this into a book. But one of the interesting things about it is that like each letter has like a life lesson for his 16-year-old son. And, you know, a lot of it at the beginning starts out with health, and some of it starts out, and then it starts going into money, which Gary Halbert has made millions upon millions upon millions. Again, like he's made in the billions for his copywriting for other people and stuff like that. But he's like one of them guys that made millions, lost all of it, then made millions again, and then lost all of it. And he had a very interesting life to follow. But the entire book, it's kind of it's very interesting just because he's writing these letters to his son.
Does he talk about his personal life in these letters?
Yeah, very much so, yeah. They would say that this is his deepest writing when it comes to exploring his personal life and his personal feelings about things, about habits.
Do you find him relatable in any way?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Especially when he talks about some of... specifically they go over the letter, and then after the letter you'll have his son, who is now an amazing copywriter, actually write his thoughts about the letter and kind of dig a little bit deeper into what his dad meant in different paragraphs in that letter. So it's kind of cool because you'll read one letter and you'll kind of get this, like he has this whole a whole letter that I just recently read in here was specifically telling his son why it was good as a man to have big, well-developed arms. And, you know, he went in such great detail about how, you know, like, number one, like, women really like him. And a lot of times that, you know, if you have bigger arms, other men will not seek you out as prey.
Yeah.
Simply because, like, have you ever heard, like, another guy going, like, dude, that guy has huge arms, I'll probably rip your head off, you know? And specifically, when you look at a dude who has kind of, like, giant, you know, forearms or giant biceps, you kind of look at him and you say, man, that motherfucker could probably rip my head off with them things, you know, or swing them at me hard. So you immediately, and then he talks specifically about how, you know, and his son was very open in here, and he was very open. Like, he's a very, very non-violent type individual.
Yeah.
So I honestly haven't figured out why he was in prison yet. That's one of my next ventures to kind of figure out that. But that being said, you know, he just went and dug deep into all of these reasons of why it's important to have, like, well-developed arms.
Yeah.
And being that he's, like, one of the best copywriters in the world, it's just so compelling to read. Like, each sentence, he's really good at doing things called hooks, which, in a sense, he'll say things like, well, I'm going to stop on this topic, you know, because and we'll come back to it later. And so, and towards the end of every letter, he kind of gives you a hint of what's going to be coming up on the next letter, meaning that he doesn't just cut each one off cold.
Yeah.
He kind of uses each one to segue into the next one,
Yeah.
which you find is, like, super important.
Keep you intrigued.
Well, yeah, I mean, think about it. Like, if you were watching, for instance, a TV show, like we got into, like, the Game of Thrones, and definitely got into Viking. I think Viking was one of the, and still is one of the best series. Oh, did it? Oh, shit. See how much I pay attention to TV. I'll have to watch that. But, you know, imagine if Viking cut every episode off without any cliffhangers.
Yeah.
You know, they specifically do that in TV. They close a couple loops or a couple stories, but then they open up a few other stories to keep you intrigued to want to watch the next episode. And it also keeps you, let me finish what I'm saying here, but it also keeps you thinking about it all week.
That's true. But the only thing that sucks is, like, every now and then you'll have, like, a horrible episode. It'll just be boring as hell.
But you know that a really fucking good one's coming up after that.
I know, right?
Because, but you know, the one thing that they're doing is they're opening up a lot of storylines in that episode.
That's true.
So
That's true.
you're sitting there and imagining, okay, this episode sucked because there wasn't that much action, but look how many fucking storylines opened up in that episode.
I know.
So they opened up more what we call loops. And
then they show the previews to what's going to happen
it.
next. You're just like, holy fucking shit.
So they start showing the previews of what's
Damn
happening
it.
next. That's one of the things that people don't realize. You know, I'm a student of marketing. I mean, I study it, I live it, I eat it, I breathe it, you know.
Yes, you do.
And all of that, everything that you see is it's so relatable in the world, in the realm of marketing. You know, how do you keep your clients intrigued? How do you keep them paying attention to you? That's going to be more important in the future than anything.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to find people that used to do things the old way, where they just existed and they just try to, you know, be as absolute plain as possible. They're not out there actually documenting their journey or making their journey interesting. You know, you're going to find that other people are going to come along and excel past these individuals, specifically because they haven't adopted to the new way people actually consume their entertainment. And to literally to understand, I mean, all the marketing principles are good, but the most important thing to understand is, like, what hooks your market. You know, what can you do on a daily basis that's going to continuously hook your market.
Yeah.
You know, some people don't realize some of the things that I do specifically that have nothing to do with my dent removal company. They have nothing to do with some of my other businesses that I own, are actually ways to hook clients into my other business models. You know, and I'll give you an example. So I do a podcast with Wasfi, who owns JD Legends, and which is a local place where they have big performers and, you know, all kinds of stuff like that. Well, our podcast is just about marketing. But during that podcast, people get to know, like, and trust me by me delivering them content that they digest. And the further they dig in and find out the things that I do, the more opportunity I open up to do business with them. But you see what I'm saying? I'm bringing them in in something that they can actually consume. I can hook and keep their attention. And then as they discover more things about me, they want to do business with me.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this question. So what makes a good copywriter? Like, what is a copywriter? Is this somebody that just can go into like detail to where they can write a really good description about something?
See, what really makes a good copywriter is somebody who can write copy in a way that sells.
Okay.
So ideally, you really, above and beyond anything, is understanding what your market wants to buy, number one.
Yeah.
The second thing is framing the offer. What people have to realize is that before you don't just start writing copy and then your offer appears, okay? Mm-hmm. So you actually framework, like, what's the offer? What are we selling to, whatever market demographic? What exactly are we selling? And then from that perspective, you understand what your market's what their pain points are around whatever service, whatever, product, whatever you're selling them. Are you going to be moving them towards pleasure, or you're going to be moving them away from pain? Mm-hmm. And then from that perspective, when you begin to start writing copy, you basically want to hook them into a story that relieves, either brings them towards that pleasure or away from that pain. And sometimes it doesn't even have to be big and robust. It doesn't have to be big words. It has to clearly convey the message and clearly convey the offer in a way that your ideal market wants to receive it and consume it and understand it. Mm-hmm. And above and beyond that, you spend more time on why it's important than just about any other aspect of why this is important to that individual or that market. Mm-hmm. The second thing is that you want to make sure you write specifically to that demographic. If you start writing to 2 or 3 different demographics, you're going to lose all 3 of them, because one of the biggest things that people actually leave a potential sale is because they look at it and they say, well, that's not for me. Mm-hmm. That's the example. If people landed on your dent removal website, but they were looking for detailing, they would just immediately leave because there's nothing on your website about detailing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or if they looked for dent removal, but they landed on a detailing website.
Yeah.
And maybe the detailing website had a little bit about their dent removal, they would typically just leave because they would say, well, this is not exactly what I'm looking for. It looks like these are detailing people.
Yeah.
So specifically understanding, who your ideal client customers are, their pain points. And the thing about paintless dent removal specifically is that there are so many pain points in the automotive service-based industry that paintless dent removal actually cures them pain points. It's actually the cure for these pain points. Mm-hmm. And people don't realize one of the biggest pain points is that your automotive repair is going to cut into your life, right? It's going to be such a burden to do this thing. I mean, you think about it, if you get into an accident where you need your bumper painted, right? All you can think about is, oh, fuck, now I got to go to the body shop. I'm going to have to drop off my car. I'm going to have to, whatever, maybe call my insurance company. How much is this going to cost?
Yeah.
There's all this shit running through your head. It's you associate it with pain. Mm-hmm. Nobody goes to the fucking body shop and says, oh, thank God I'm here. You know what I mean? Like, thank God I'm here. The only reason they pick a body shop is based probably on the quality or referral from their insurance company. Some bullshit that insurance companies do, things that risk removal is the big thing. They say that, you go to one of our body shops, we'll guarantee it. So, risk reversal is what they call that, which is huge. And that's why a lot of people, you got to use risk reversal in your paintless dent removal business. You got to say you guarantee it or it's free. But that being said, paintless dent removal is like the cure for all of that. Yeah. And also, there's so many pain points in the automotive industry, in the auto body industry specifically, that if you remind people of them pain points, they're moving away from that just to come towards you because they're moving away from so much pain, and you're pulling them to something that's a much more pleasurable experience. Mm-hmm. Now, they're still not going to be like, yay, hey, I got to get my dent fixed, but you can at least pull them away from that pain that's associated with like a full-on body repair, or that pain with filing an insurance claim if it's like a door ding or a mid-sized dent. You can pull them away from that.
Plus, they're not going to be like without their car that long.
Sure.
Depending on how much they love their car.
Sure, and in some cases, they're going to be able to wait
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things that, when I'm working with folks and, I'm talking to them and, like I said, but one of the first things I try to focus on is how much value am I adding to their life, their car or whatever, because I'm not going to focus on how much I'm charging them because I don't believe I'm taking anything from them because I'm adding something to their life. I'm adding value to their life by providing them specifically with the service that, that we provide. And so immediately whenever I drop a price on them, so let's say a guy came in with like quarter panel damage and I told him it was going to be $875. Well, the first thing, his eyes kind of, and I'm like, well, I will tell you this right now. You're not going to have to worry about paint mismatch. If you took this to a body shop, they're going to have to pull your window out. They're going to have to do all this kind of stuff. And I start going into detail of what a traditional body repair of what would need to be done. And I just tell them, I'm going to let you know that we're not going to do any of that. And on top of that, I don't file Carfax reports. And so I'm not specifically going to be filing a Carfax report. You're not going to have to worry about the devaluation of the vehicle. You're not going to be without your car for days. And all of a sudden, $875 starts sounding pretty good.
Yeah.
And I even had a guy one time, he asked me, he goes, well, what he's like, a body shop would probably want a couple thousand for that. And I'm like, at least a couple thousand for that.
Yeah.
And you would have to, literally, your car would be there for weeks, and you'd have to hope like hell that your paint matched. Because the bottom line is they're going to end up painting into your door, too.
Yeah.
And so immediately $875 starts sounding like a pretty fucking good deal at that point.
It does. Yes, it does.
And you got to remember, if they go to a body shop, they're going to walk in there and it's going to be a couple grand.
Yeah.
But you can also talk to people a little bit deeper, like, if it's $875, they got a $500 deductible or something like that, right? You could let them know that literally that ping on there, this is collision, right? Hey sir, your vehicle was moving. I don't care if it was a shopping cart or I don't care what it was. If it was on wheels, it's collision. And you can specifically let people know that when they do file an insurance claim, they're going to have a wreck on their record for $375. Is it worth $375 for you to have a fucking wreck on your record? Because, and I let people know, I'm like, it's literally, it's like a credit score. They actually have like a credit score it's called your insurance score. And the insurance companies know exactly, what risk and what liability you are. Especially for older folks. That really starts to scare them because they're like, oh shit, my insurance company, I'm about that age where I do one thing, they're going to fucking drop me. Next thing you know, welcome to Progressive.
I'm just going to have somebody drive me around when I get older.
Welcome to Progressive or welcome to the Ranger. I've never even done an insurance claim for the Ranger.
What's the... Oh, that's an insurance
company. Or wait, the General. Is it the General?
Yeah, not the Ranger. When you said
the
Ranger, I'm like...
The Ranger!
I've never heard of them.
Yeah, so whoever the fucking General. I've done several for a company called Chubb. You guys probably know Chubb.
That's an insurance company?
That's an insurance company, believe it or not.
CHUBB?
I think so, yeah. No, I think it's I think it's CHUBB. I think so. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah.
I'm gonna have to Google them.
So it's interesting that you segued into that, though. You know what I mean? Because really, this is what a lot of guys need to hear. Because I still see, I see a lot of, I redo a lot of websites. I mean, we're over a couple hundred websites now that we host and we manage for paintless dent removal companies. And when we take them over, they usually either they don't have a website or they have a website that's outdated, or they even have a website they just recently, had done for them within the last few years. It's just not performing the way that they expected.
Yeah.
So in that regard, a lot of it has a common theme. And number one, a lot of them have very, very little copy written in the website. And the copy that is written usually just doesn't clearly display the competitive advantages of using paintless dent removal over other repair methods.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just struck every time I see, like, literally, I think there's websites I've seen that have less than 100 words of copy written on it.
Yeah.
Shit. In fact, there was some guy who came to me with a website that still had that Latin scribble they put in the templates on some of his pages.
Oh, I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
That sounds very interesting, though.
It's literally something that they put in default in websites that you're supposed to copy and paste over and put the writing in there on top of it.
Yeah. So now that Christmas is coming up, well, wait a minute. What's Christmas what's that supposed to be? I know it's supposed to be the birth of Christ, but what's the whole deal with Christmas?
It's a day you wake up and open presents. What do you mean?
Well, I mean,
don't tell me you're going this conspiracy theory shit.
No, what I was going to say is, what are you talking about? I'm not, like, into that stuff.
You getting ready to go Jehovah on me?
No. What, they don't do Christmas?
No.
They don't?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so.
Oh, they don't? They don't do Christmas?
I don't think so. But it's like a huge meaning behind why they don't.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'll give you, all right, I mean, I'll give you a quick crash course.
No, what I'm saying is, like, so Thanksgiving is supposed to be, you're thankful and,
Christmas is the time of giving. Giving.
That is true.
Yeah,
Hey, what are you going to be giving me?
I give you shit all the time. So, but that being said, I'm going to give you guys a quick crash course of what we were talking about, the whole Christmas thing right there for a second. So, typically there's other religions that specifically believe that, Catholicism, Catholics, what?
No, just when you said that, it reminded me of...
And which they're true, but I don't know, man. I don't go too deep into this shit.
Wait a minute, what movie is that?
What, like Dogma or something?
Yes. Oh, I love that movie.
So specifically, what is it, like, I think it was Constantine or something like that, who was an individual in the past, the Roman Empire or whatever, was killing Christians, and he eventually couldn't eradicate the Christians, so he decided to just take it over, and that's how the Catholic Church was born. And he said, whatever, you can't talk to God unless you go through me, because I'm the Pope, and then I'm going to organize it. Like, if I can't get rid of it, I'm going to organize it, so I'm going to put, like, cardinals here and bishops here,
Yeah.
We're going to have, like, this
Roman
structure hierarchy, and then during what would have been like the winter solstice, to get the pagans at the time that was under his belief, we're going to create Christmas at this time because that's when they were doing the solstice, so it's a lot easier if it's a pagan, who already has a holiday, to transform into this religion if
Wait a minute.
the holiday is coupled.
What's that angel's name on Dogma?
I don't know.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't. Yeah. The Seraphim?
Is that it?
I mean, I don't remember what his name is, but I remember he was specifically a seraphim angel, which I had never heard of, but in the movie he's so offended because nobody has... And if you guys haven't seen Dogma, you guys got to watch it. It's a Jay and Silent Bob movie that the Catholic Church, from my understanding when it first came out, was kind of pissed about it. But I don't know. It's really, really hilarious. But it does kind of play on the specific dogmas, in the Catholic Church. But yeah, give or take, like, I grew up with people that were Catholic. I thought they were cool as fuck. I kind of base everything on, like, how the person acts. You know what I mean? And the kids were cool. The parents were always the coolest. So in that regard, like, I don't know, man. I don't get too deep into that bullshit. Like, fucking, it's like everybody goes to hell and they're like, which religion got in, and then that one, only that one, I just don't get into that shit. But I understand it at a certain level. Just because I'm curious. Oh.
Curious, huh?
Oh. All right. So that being said, we're going to close out this podcast on that note right there.
All right.
Is there something specifically you wanted to say?
No.
Huh? She has been dying for me to tell this one story, guys. And so we were talking about this the other day. We were talking about
giving back.
Yeah, and we were talking about specifically, like, maybe like working like at a kitchen, a soup kitchen, helping and stuff like that.
Like, we've always done the Dents for Kids, and we didn't do it this year. And I was just like, it'd be like really cool just to like
find something, whatever. But I'm not gonna tell anybody about it.
Yeah,
that's my deal now. If I do something and give something away, I'm not telling a fucking soul about it. I mean, apparently, it's just I don't want to anymore. you know?
Yeah.
So, but that being said, to step into this, we were talking about, like, you know, the soup kitchen down in Dayton and how many people they help and all this kind of stuff. And we were, you know, just going through that. And I was like, shit, I was like, my dad, and this is true. This is a true story. So my dad had his own hookup that was kind of like a neighborhood soup kitchen. But he actually connected with one of the managers at Kentucky Fried Chicken when I was a kid.
In Piqua, Ohio.
In Piqua, Ohio. And so he scored this deal with them, and apparently this was a legit deal, that they would always find one person, and at the end of every night, my dad would show up there, and he would get all the chicken from that day, anything that was left over.
And the sides.
And the sides. But here was the deal. You had to come get it every night. The moment you told them, like, hey, I'm cool on chicken, like, they stopped giving it to you and they found somebody else to give it to.
Yeah.
So it was his turn, you know, and oh man, everybody was eating chicken. All of our neighbors was eating chicken. My dad had a bunch of old drunks that came out to the garage and friends and all that stuff, and everybody was eating chicken. I mean, this shit went on for like weeks. And we were eating chicken for breakfast. We were eating Kentucky Fried Chicken at lunch. We were eating, you know, all the sides and all the fixings. And, you know, he's trying to keep up with it. So he's like giving buckets of chicken away. And then people, you know, we wouldn't want to eat chicken one night. So like, who can we give the chicken to this night? And that. Like, it just went on and on and on, you know. So, but our whole life was surrounded around getting all this fucking free Kentucky Fried Chicken. And, you know, all the neighbors were eating it. You know, we'd run one down to this neighbor, that neighbor. And we had this interesting neighborhood. We knew, you know, that you had the neighbors that were, you know, you knew that were really struggling. You had the neighbors that were doing much better. You know, had the nice house in the neighborhood. And we were just, everybody was eating the chicken.
Yeah.
Like, everybody from the high to the low to the in-between, everybody was eating chicken, that whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
But it got to about 3 weeks, and, like you couldn't even give that shit away. Like, we had all this chicken coming in.
Yeah.
And there was, like, nobody there to eat the shit.
Everybody got burned out.
Like including every neighbor. We're like, my dad's calling his friends, and he knew everybody in town. He had people coming by to pick up buckets of chicken. And, I mean, it was like a nonstop supply of chicken. And finally, he had to give the gig up because he got to the point where we would go there and have 10 buckets of chicken, and there wouldn't be, nobody would want one piece of it. Yeah, so she was kind of dying. Like, that's the whole why she was giggling here and laughing, because I told her, I'm like, don't bring up the chicken story.
I like that.
I told her, at least if she brought up the chicken story, give me a way to segue into it.
I love your stories from your childhood growing up. I really do, because, man, your mom and dad, Nidra and Jerry, they were just a different kind. They were just a different kind of people, and they were awesome. And it's just, I mean,
but if you guys know hillbillies, that's what they were.
That was always, yeah. Anytime we were over there was just always a good time out in the garage, and they were just some interesting people.
My mom's good times is literally playing records on Saturday night.
Yeah.
She would dig through. It was like, get down the fiddle and get down the bow, kick off your shoes and throw them on the floor, dance in the kitchen till the morning light, Ohio Saturday night. That was like our weekend song, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there'd always be music playing in the garage and everything.
Gambling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
You know, I think that's why I'm so, man, I accept anybody for who they are. I would honestly rather see somebody with all their flaws and like fucking own them than somebody who's trying to hide their self from the world, you know?
Yeah.
And I get a kick out of people who just, you know, they've got flaws. They know it. I've got flaws. I know it. But they don't try to hide them from the world, and they try to, you know, do their best. I get a kick out of them people a lot more than, you know, people that you can just tell are hiding everything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Them are the ones that sketch me out a little bit, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm like, you a little too perfect for me, man. It's... You hiding something deep in there. I see your perfection. I see your smile, but it looks like a volcano about ready to explode.
Yeah, that's
It makes me
want
to follow him around and be like, I know you're going to fucking explode sometime.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's usually what happens, and then they go off the deep end. Like, they really go off the deep end.
That's, you know why, though? That's
sad,
it is sad because, honestly, that's the pressure of conformity. What it boils down to is that they care so much about what the outside world thinks of them that they have lost connection with themselves.
Yeah, and that's the book about you do you. That's her whole principle is what you just said. Now she's all about like you being your true authentic self, but not being an asshole or a shitty person.
Because technically that's not your true authentic self. And I'm going to tell you guys why. You might say, well, if you're an asshole to people, there's an underlying issue behind there that hasn't been, there's a conflict that hasn't been resolved.
Yeah.
There's a reason why your father did something to you, or your mother did something, or, somebody treated you bad and you never let it go. There's some sort of inner conflict in there that hasn't been resolved. Because by nature we are who we are, It's like by nature we're not. You don't just naturally become that way.
No.
So there's some inner conflict and issues that haven't been dealt with because it's painful to be an asshole to people. I mean, it's painful to live a life that you've got to have that type of barrier up where you lash out at other people for no reason. And I mean, and we all do it, don't get me wrong. I mean, I can remember times that I've done it, but I've decided to become much more conscious about that. I'll give you an example. So today I had to call Rumpke because these motherfuckers have literally forgot to pick up my trash for like months.
Yeah,
on end.
that's true.
And it's partially my fault because I go out there every time and I'm like, I'm gonna call them, and then I never call them. But today I called the lady that we went to I'm at the new location, and there was a couple other reasons why they could have not got my trash at the other place, so I was kind of ignoring it, and I was good to go. But we go to the new place, and 3 weeks later, I go out there, I pay for them to remove my trash every week, to come dump it, all that stuff, and it's just still packed full of shit. So I called him today, and I just told her, I was like, hey, I just want to let you know, I just want to make sure I'm paying for it weekly. And she goes, well, yeah. And I'm like, well, nobody's dumped it for like so many weeks. And she goes, oh, I wish you would have called earlier if that happened. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, it's just one of them things where I keep telling myself to call, and I always forget. And you know how that is. And she goes, oh, yeah, I know exactly. I do that all the time. And I just had a conversation with her.
Yeah.
What happened? All of a sudden, I hear something later on that day. Boom, 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 boom. My dumpster's being dumped. And it's just like it could have went two ways. I could have stressed about it. I could have called him up. I could have been angry. I could have ruined her day. I could have put hate into the world. I could have felt bad about ruining her day, because, and got some sort of false satisfaction out of being a dick to her, that she's not the one coming to dump my dumpster. You know what I mean? And there's all kinds of bad things that could have came about specifically by that phone call. But instead I just chose to be relatable and say, hey, I probably know the driver might not have seen it on his schedule, or maybe because it's a new location, he's just not used to coming by here all the time.
Yeah.
And she basically just took care of it. And now it's good to go. I encourage all you guys to think about that when you go to interact with somebody, or maybe somebody's not doing something that you want them to do, instead of coming at it from a place of, fear and pain and the victim mindset, like they're taken from you, just come at it from a place of, hey, maybe it was a mistake.
Yeah.
And, try to approach it that way first, and just try to maybe, people are much more willing to help you get what you want accomplished if you just come at them and make them feel important and try to lighten the day up a little bit for him.
Yeah.
That's one thing I learned about my dad specifically, is that he always made people feel good about themselves. And
he hardly, Jerry, I don't think I've really ever seen him mad. There was a very few times, and I think it always had to do when he would always have to get on the telephone to like call a company to talk to them about something.
Well, he hated being on the phone anyway.
Yeah, I know, but
he was one of the guys who never said bye. Like, you would go, all right, hey, Dad, all right, I'll talk to you later. Click. He didn't see it as a slight to anybody. He hated the phone. Like, he looked at a phone kind of like somebody looks at like a like you would look at a turd on the ground or something like that. He would look at it like, oh God, I got to pick up this thing, you know?
Yeah. And he'd rather talk to you in person or go,
he just didn't get the whole phone thing.
Yeah, that was just like your brother Greg. Like, he would never really call out there. He would just go out there to, like, if he needed something or he needed to talk to Greg or something like that. He wouldn't call him on the phone. He would just go out there.
It was so funny that, so at my dad's funeral, one of the things that he would have really thought was funny, and I kind of get a kick out of this because if you walked into his garage, imagine, so my father's garage was like they changed motors in that motherfucker. They did body work in that place. I mean, they did, real mechanic shit in that garage. Like, we weren't the people that took our cars to mechanics. My uncle was a mechanic. My dad was a body man. We were the people that worked on our cars outside in the garage behind the house.
Yeah.
And there was camaraderie there. People would gather there, right?
Yeah.
So at his funeral, specifically when you walked into his garage, you'd see this big old school air compressor back in the back, like 100-gallon air compressor. There was like a fan up against the wall, but to the right, there's, the phone, the old school phone. For the longest time, he had one of the ones that you dialed, like the round ring around it, that you'd hear click, 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 and it would dial just like that, the old school phone. And to the right of that was a light switch that he had put in there. And the light switch was, if you could imagine, like this bodybuilder guy, right? And literally, the switch was like his dick. It was coming out of, his dick. It was like
that never dawned on me the entire time. I was just like, oh, this is...
It was a joke. So when you flipped on the light switch, you flipped on the bodybuilder's dick, And it was
he would have had a Woody then.
Yes, but it was just hilarious, right? It's just something my dad would have put out there for jokes, for laughs. And the pastor that was specifically up there doing like the eulogy, and he was speaking to lots. He goes, he's talking about how when he walked into the garage and he was fixated on that fucking switch.
Yeah, but he didn't.
He was talking about how he would flip the switch on and flip it down, And me and my brother looked at each other and we were just like, is he talking about, does he know what he's done? And he went on and on about that switch, and I was like,
dawn on him either.
I was thinking I should have stood up and be like, well, did you ever grab the switch and move it up and down real like put your fingers around it and like just kind of clean it a little bit, like back and forth, and and but it was
jiggle it up and down.
It was just something that was was hilarious. And the interesting thing was, everybody talked about how my dad, when he died, because he knew everybody in town, that the whole funeral home was going to be wrapped around the, the block with people waiting to see him.
Yeah.
But ultimately, there was a decent amount of people that showed up to his funeral, but not even near as much as what you'd expected. But here's the deal. His funeral was on Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, I consider that a blessing, because really the true people that knew him, the ones that were really close to him, showed up. So there wasn't a lot of them people showing up just for show. It was ultimately the people that were really close to them, because, it was on Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah.
I think his funeral was like even during the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think it was... God, I can't even remember, because like his viewing, I think it was like, maybe it was in the afternoon, and then it was up to maybe like an hour before this.
But I was glad, I was glad that, because the right people were there, and it was a celebration of life. So, anyhow, that being said, I guess the chicken story led us into all kinds of new stuff.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. And but that being said, guys, we appreciate you for coming along on this episode of the Tactical Dent Tech Podcast. Here's a little thing, guys. Well, we don't even name the podcast until after we're finished with the episode.
Yeah.
So all these crazy names that you see that we name our podcast, we just like sit here, like after we get done with our episodes, we just kind of like go through the podcast and we go, what are we going to name it this time?
It definitely has to be about something with chicken and the light switch.
Playing with chicken boners.
Chicken boners, huh? I don't know.
Chicken boners on bodybuilders. Bodybuilders love chicken boners.
Hey, that's not bad right there.
Bodybuilders love chicken boners. All right, everybody. So appreciate you for coming along on this podcast. And as usual, we're going to see you on the next one.
Remember, and it's all about the motherfucking hustle.
Yep.
Bang, bang.
Pew, pew. I got it right that time.
I know, yes you did.